Anyways, as you know, the opening segment of every show, of every game, is of course the coin toss. Let's get to it. All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Again, the coin toss being our first segment every week. We're going to get a little serious this week in terms of the coin toss because we are going to talk about the rash of injuries that have been going on in the NFL. I mean, you guys, today I just read there are 205 NFL players on the injured reserve list alone. That to me
Jesus.
is a lot. I mean, you're talking an average of what 32 teams. So each team has got 4 and 5 guys at least on the injured reserve, and that doesn't count people who are questionable for this week or anything like that. That was just the injured reserve list. So that's just to show you how the injuries have piled up so far this year. Of course, the biggest one, because I think it's been talked about for weeks now, is obviously Tua Tagovailoa and his potential 2 concussions within 5 days. Now, we all know what's happened there. Tua was taken out of the second game after that second hit he took. I mean, I think we all saw the first hit, and we all kind of agreed that it looked like he might have had a concussion. His hands were in the fencing position, as they call it. It looked bad. Then he comes back and plays, and he gets hit again. And that one, whoo, doggy. That looked one even worse. But Delilah, because of this now, we're starting to see some changes in the NFL protocols. I'd like you to actually speak a little bit on that because I know you have an opinion on that.
Well,
So
it was
go right
not.
ahead.
I don't know if it's an opinion. It's the fact that the NFL Players Association, which is basically just a union, right, for NFL players. So that's basically what they are. And so they've updated like their protocols that they said was effective immediately. So like now where if you get hit and you're like wobbling and you lose your equilibrium, you can't come back in
Yep.
and play. And then you 100% have to be evaluated, like not just by your team doctor, but now they want an independent evaluation because of what happened. And then you go into concussion protocol, obviously, right after. So some people are also questioning the Thursday to Sunday games now, like how quickly some players have to play. A suggestion was made, and I know Kate shared this too. I forgot what announcer it was, what sports analyst was, but they were saying that the bye weeks maybe would make more sense. That team that plays Thursday, then they don't play Sunday. Maybe it's like, obviously it's a little hard to do because there's a lot of teams but you know what I mean? But they're saying that perhaps that team that plays Thursday, that Sunday should be their bye week instead of to minimize, to minimize
The
that
damage and all that.
damage, right? Especially now, I feel like the Tua has been the example more because he went down on Thursday and he quickly went down again on Sunday. And thank God it wasn't, still serious, but from what all the experts have said, it could have been way worse. He could have been paralyzed. It could have even been fatal because it's head trauma.
Oh, absolutely.
I think what was driving me crazy was that people were like, "Oh, it's just a concussion, like it's nothing." And I'm like, you know what a concussion is? It's head trauma. It's a head injury. So that's literally what it is. It is a head injury. It is head trauma. There's no sugarcoating it. And so I think that, but I am glad that there's more scrutiny. I did bring that up. Like I do agree with Sean. Like even though these injuries have been happening, it is a lot safer to play, football, like even though these things happen, but the reason it is safer is because of this. Because when something like this happens, we actually have things in place to go, wait a minute, like what steps were missed so that we can ensure that this doesn't happen again. Because as much as we love these guys and we want to go on and see them play, at the same time, we have to save them from themselves, right? Like there are players who will just keep playing even though they're like busted up. And we heard Cordero play through a knee injury. I don't even know how he, ran on that. But sometimes we just have to protect them from themselves. So it's like, yes, we get it. You want to go out and play. You don't want to leave your team down. You don't want to leave your fans down. But at the same time, you got to make sure your body heals. So I am glad that they've updated the protocols because we got to protect the players from themselves sometimes.
Oh, 100%. Now, Handy, outside of the concussion, obviously, there have been such a rash of like knee injuries and ankle injuries and guys with groin problems like Joey Bosa, and with the Chargers. And Rashawn Slater had a biceps injury that's kept him out, which is probably affected the Chargers in many ways, losing guys. But what I wanted to ask you is like, do you feel that this is a result of maybe the preseason being shortened by a game and adding a game to the regular season? How do you feel about that?
Well, I can also, one of the things that I can throw out there as you were running through the litany of the different injuries, a lot of that. I mean, remember being a kid and we would go out and play sandlot ball in some torn up field. Somebody
I
would
always
inevitably
played.
turn an ankle. Somebody would inevitably tweak a knee. Somebody would inevitably
Yeah.
tweak something. I mean, the Astro. I mean, it's the lesser of two evils. I mean, you have some places like, sorry about this, producer Sean, I'm not trying to throw you under the bus, but you have places like FedEx Field that are notorious for guys coming up and being injured because it's just ill maintained, and then you have AstroTurf where guys plant and the ground does not give because it's artificial turf. It's not the same as, so you get the guys that tweak their MCLs trying to plant and spin and that kind of thing. But as far as the length of the preseason, I can't really say whether or not that one more week of play makes a difference or not, because by the time you get to week 4 of the preseason, a lot of the starters aren't playing anyway. So I don't know if that's a factor or not. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just these guys are bigger and faster, and I think guys are growing bigger and faster with the advance in technology in the fitness world. These guys are getting bigger and stronger than it used to take guys years and years and years to get to where some of these guys can get in 6 to 8 months. The constant gaining of weight on the off season, and then the quick shedding of the weight when it's time to get back in shape. I think that's more of a factor than anything else.
No, that's fair. And again, the only reason I brought up the preseason thing is because, as you said, a lot of the starters don't play in the preseason. And I feel a lot of the onus in terms of the offseason is up to the player to keep themselves in shape so that when they come into camp and they start doing all this, then they get into the live action without maybe having the speed. Because, I mean, let's be honest, in preseason games, the speed is there, but you're playing one set, you're playing a couple of snaps, and then you're out of there. Then all of a sudden, week 1, you got guys going for your head, and you're turning this way, turning that way, and all of a sudden, body parts are falling apart. Again, I'm not saying that is the cause, but I just feel like there is something to that a little bit. With you took the preseason from 4 games to 3. You added another week onto the NFL season, so now you got to play 17 games, which means you have to have that health another week longer because those games actually count. And I just go ahead, sir. I see the finger. So I'm going to let you go ahead and talk. Go ahead.
I actually had a light bulb moment here. When we talked about the bigger, faster, stronger, we're also somehow Kanye popped in my head for some reason. Anyway, you got kids in college that are now the same size as some of these guys in the pros. And you think about 20, 25 years ago, the guys like Tony Mandarich and guys like, now granted, we talk about Boz, but we know Boz was juicing, but those guys were athletic freaks. So these guys weren't getting beat up in college like they were now. Like some of these guys, by the time they've gone through high school playing with kids that are big as college kids and playing with college kids that are as big as the guys in the pros, they've taken a goodly amount of a beating before they've even gotten to the pros. So that was just the thought that crossed my mind.
No. And that's a great point to make. Yeah.
I think
but
too,
go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Delilah. No.
It's
on you, babe. I got you.
I don't know if it's I feel like it's not the games themselves. It's more the conditioning. Like, I think that a lot of times we see some guys that go hard, right? We know, like, even though Myles Garrett got in a car accident, he likes to post his workout over the off season, right? Like, there's some of these guys train and keep their body, even though they're not playing football, conditioned. And what I've noticed is that a lot of those guys that condition year round, like, it doesn't mean you're going hard, but you're conditioning your body. So I feel like they're more prepared, because it's not just about taking a beating. It's literally about getting your muscles ready, right? It's about making sure that your muscle has that muscle memory. It's not just happening in the NFL, right? We've seen that in the NBA too. Like, they're having the same issues. A lot of people are not conditioning in off season. They come in and all of a sudden, boom, everybody's injured. So it's like, I don't know if it's just I don't know if it's just a change in the play, like in the way they do
Mhm.
things, but I
Yeah.
feel like
Right.
a lot of that goes into that whoever their strength and conditioning team is, I think that they do
Right.
need to spend more time on that, like making sure that
Mhm.
those players get that muscle memory back. Like you said, like, okay, if they're playing in different turfs, are they practicing on different turfs? Like maybe that's actually a good
Right.
idea, right? Like, I know that they have their own training field, but maybe it is a good deal to get them trying different types of, ground to play on
Yep.
so they can practice, right? So they can see like, okay, if I move on this grass versus this grass, like what does that do to my body? Like how do I turn on it? So like, I do think that maybe it could come down to that as well. Because you could like we can't bubble wrap guys, right? Because football is just
Nope.
violent.
Can't do that.
But I feel like that there are things like maybe like that, like changing the way they do their training and conditioning, maybe could improve because to do that, right? To get those guys like back in shape, like you said, kind of used to playing at an NFL level.
Yeah,
No,
like
no, for sure.
Rod, one of
Go
the
ahead,
things
Anthony.
that come to mind. Sorry, but one of the things that come to mind when Delilah was talking was, running backs, running back, like to have a running back with a sustained season was a lot more commonplace in the NFL back then, which was amazing given the fact that the NFL was not as pass happy as it is now. But they interviewed
Right.
They
Correct.
interviewed Roger Craig because Roger Craig had pretty much played for some ungodly amount of time for a running back, and he was ahead of his time. They asked him what was part of his secret. He said, in addition to the training, he said he does a certain amount of time period while he's training leading up to the season that he takes downtime and allows his body to recover. Because if you're just training and never letting your muscles rest, because
Right.
muscle is built by tearing muscle and then building new
Yes, it
muscle on
is.
top of it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
I worked in
Gotcha.
physical therapy. That's the one thing that I learned. But he said that the one thing that he would do is after every game, he would go through 2 or 3 days of intense deep tissue massage therapy. Like it's
Okay.
real commonplace in the league now. But everybody wasn't doing that back in the 80s and the 90s.
Right.
Those guys were going out, hitting the
Right.
club and having drinks and doing whatever they were doing.
Yeah.
Right. They were
Wouldn't that
smoking
be
cigarettes at halftime.
wouldn't
Yeah.
that be part of conditioning? Like, you know what I mean? Like it's not just strength training, that would be part of conditioning
Oh
your
yeah,
body, right?
100%. Yes, 100%.
Yeah, I think we can all agree though. This year, definitely. I mean, with some of them, like you said, Dallas loses their quarterback. Dak goes out with a thumb injury, but yet Cooper Rush comes in and wins 3 games in a row. So some of these injuries, you got, they might be better for the team. I don't know. Like, are we in a hurry to get Dak back? Most Cowboy fans would probably say yes, because
Of
obviously
course.
Cooper Rush is not the guy. But you can't
Cowboys
argue with a guy
fans
who goes
don't
3-0
care.
in the start, right?
Yeah. He's
Cowboys
holding
fans
it
don't care
down.
as long as Cooper keeps winning.
Right. Yeah. No, that's true. No, you're right. If he's doing his job, they're not gonna complain. If it
Right.
was like the opposite, like then yeah, they'd be like, "What's going?
Right.
Get Dak back."
No,
I mean,
right. Hurry up, get him back.
every time Fitzmagic
Because
came in and won 2 or 3 games, they'd be like, "Yes, Fitzmagic," and they were cool
yes,
until he
right.
started losing, and it was when his
Then they were done with him. Yeah.
right.
Then they're definitely done with you once you don't win anymore, my friend.
They
Yeah,
really
But no,
are.
Kate is right. I mean, this is the most injuries I've seen in a long time. I mean, you look at again, you've got like Rashawn Slater went out for the Chargers. Dak is out. Javonte Williams, the running back for the Broncos, is
He's
out
out
for the
for the
year.
season. Yes.
Yeah, he's out for the season. Cordero Patterson has a knee. He's probably, they stay out indefinitely, which who knows how long that'll be. I mean, these are guys who are extremely important to their team's process and,
Yeah.
big part of the offense and stuff. And they're going down left and right. And it's just like, man, you hate to see that because these are, I love watching just in general with football. I hate to see guys laying on the ground. Every time you take a timeout and you're like, God, I hope the guy gets up by the time the commercial comes back. I hope this guy's up and walking on his own power. Because I hate to see people being taken off on stretchers or carts or any of that stuff. So, I mean, it definitely, whatever the reason is, or if it's football, like you said, safety protocols are in place more than they were back then. When I was a kid watching, guys try to rip each other's head off. There's a great line from a Rodney Dangerfield movie. He goes, "Tough, you haven't seen Tough till you've seen my football team. After they sacked the quarterback, they went after his family." So, I mean, that's the kind of stuff we used to watch, back in the day. So,
yeah. Coach
but
come
yeah,
over,
I really
coach come over and tell you, walk it off, son. Walk it off. You all right?
Yeah.
exactly, yeah. smack you in the helmet, tell you to get back in there.
Basically,
Exactly.
yeah. No, you're right. And
Those were-
we, those days are over, which is why these teams are getting scrutinized more too with their decisions. Like,
for sure.
Dane Jackson, cornerback for Buffalo. We saw him when he went down and hurt his neck, and I was like, I was honestly like, when they were like, oh, 9 days later he was in practice. I'm like, wait a minute, didn't you like literally hurt your neck like 9 days ago? And it was a Thursday night game too. Like, he was airlifted out in a helicopter, and I'm just like, wow, this guy is like out there like at practice already, ready to go. So I think that now people are going to be looking at things a bit more.
Kyle, I can't take Kyle. Kyle's just commenting all over the place tonight. He's got it though. Yeah,
I like.
I mean, you have to admit when you saw that pink smoke. And then this, Wagner comes and just tackles that guy in the game last night. You're like,
then all the jokes came out. I was like, that's the only tackle they got, right? Because there's
no tackle Wagner made all game, right? He tackled the guy, the fan in the stands.
Exactly. Listen, if you jump your happy hindquarters up and go running out on the field, and I'm on the sideline, I'm going to assume you're getting paid to be out there, and I'm tackling you.
You deserve to be smashed. That's right. Yeah. You deserve to be smashed. I agree. 100%.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, I guess we'll see what happens from here on out for the rest of the year with these injuries and what what adjustments they make.
Oh, yeah. I will be watching for sure because, again, I never want to see anybody get hurt.
Thanks for watching. If you like that clip, be sure to check out the other great content from the Let's Talk Football community. And as always, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you'll be notified when more great content like this becomes available.